So it seems that the Bible and the Urantia book have been written with mostly male pronouns. It was probably not the intention to leave females out of the message. However, it can imply that females, worst case, are not welcome, and best case are just not necessary, not necessarily the shakers and movers. And there were times where a message meaning, are there times where a message's meaning is misconstrued by using more inclusive language, such as parent for father or child for son? And I noticed especially tonight the interactions used inclusive language. And I'm wondering if when I would read with you, my Urantia book group, there was another woman and I that made a pact that we would we'd switch those pronouns as we came along to them and just see how the group reacted to it. And that's where the question came up: is are there times where it's just not appropriate to do that?
Good evening. We look on with amusement at your group tonight. We enjoy the interaction and we enjoy each of your individual expressions and how you experience this reality called spirit. This one has been amusing himself with the idea of it probably will be one of the biggest shocks to mortals when they are awakened on the Urantia worlds and they don't have any genitals. When they find out that they're sexless beings. So while he chuckles with that idea, the idea of sex, being sex creatures, is not separable from your spiritual experience on this world as mortals. It's the only reality you know. You are either male or female, and there are diversions from that. And you all wrestle with the question of your sexuality. There's a great deal of deference given to the male pronouns in literature on your world because you live in a patriarchal society. And it is the everlasting shame to those who put together the holy books of your evolutionary religions that they delegated women to an unequal status and took the divine feminine more or less out of your spiritual teachings. It's not entirely true, and you can look through the Vedas and the Upanishads and some of the Hindu literature and find the divine feminine. But certainly in Christianity, it has been removed deliberately by men. But when you look at your revelations of the Urantia book, and you see how Jesus treated women, then you understand that from the point of view of the divine, there's no preferential treatment at all. And that your world is even considered to not have evolved beyond the status of barbarians. And one of the criteria for this is the unconditional and equal treatment of women. Jesus ordained women. He set them up to preach and teach his gospel. He had an hospitalic core that was all women. And this was a shock indeed to the men of that age, the culture of that age, but more importantly, the religious teachers and leaders of that age. It was one of the things that they really did not like about his teachings and how he did things, because it threatened their power structure. It threatened things they were attached to and loved very much. So when you look at the Urantia book and the way that human sexuality enters into it, it's very much written in the male gender. It's written in the times and the language of the 1920s and 30s on your world. And women have not been prominent in the development of your society as much as they should be. Now, the question that we would ask you, because we also wrestle with this and trying to create communications for mortals on this world, where would the balance come? And how would you use language? Does it depersonalize sex creatures to talk about gender in a neutral sense? Does it make a message less personal? Jesus used the word father when he taught 2,000 years ago because that was what that culture could appreciate and understand. That's what his apostles could relate to. It wasn't that he wanted to do that, but he felt he was constantly making compromises with what he wanted to teach and what those around him could receive. But very much in the example of how he lived his life, he accorded women full and unconditional equality in his living amongst his apostles and his disciples. There isn't an easy fix in your English language for a personal pronoun that is not either he or she. The word God is a more or less unisex word, but it has a tremendous amount of baggage with it. You can easily substitute pronouns where the spirit is referred to as he with she, and it changes the meaning not at all. Our creator is not a he. She is not a she. And all the language that refers to them in terms like this is simply a compromise to mortals for your benefit. You will soon realize very quickly after you awaken on the mansion worlds that it's not an issue there. It should not be a stumbling block for your personal spiritual growth and development to the avenues and the conduits in which truth flows if these pronouns are unequally favored in the masculine. Simply in your mind, switch them to the feminine. It doesn't dilute the truth at all. And it makes it easier for you to receive and understand. It's not a problem. It's only a problem when people take divine so-called sources of revelation and make a fetish out of them. And then you can't do that. That wasn't the way it was written. That wasn't the original text. And on and on. And it makes no difference spiritually if you call the first source and center he or she or it or whatever. What matters is that you have a living connection with the spirit within you, and that you can grow in self-confidence, in self-love, and have enough peace within yourself to not be upset by these things. Simply put them in terms that make it personal to you and meaningful. Work. Now, this is a mini nuanced subject, and people have many feelings about that. The idea of Mai being portrayed as a planetary prince, the idea that I came 5,000 years or so ago and was incarnated as a male, doesn't give males more value or more quality or more power. Simply is a response to the development of human civilization at that time. Had I incarnated 4,000, 5,000 years ago as a female, I probably wouldn't have got very far as a spiritual teacher with trying to teach spiritual truth to the men of that time. Women in those days were literally viewed as chattel property, and prize cattle and horses were held in higher esteem than wives and mothers, to the everlasting shame of patriarchy. So these issues are not meant to be stumbling blocks for you. They're simply meant to be the best that we can do on a world of sex beings, to portray truth in such a way that you can relate to it and accept it. And now human beings are evolving, and we'll have to find new ways to do this in order not to alienate a significant population on this world. We certainly are all ears as to how you would see this being resolved and have something to learn from you as you discuss these matters. Thank you very much. This is Machiventa. I am your friend. I am non-gendered and equally in touch with the feminine and the masculine. So consider me your confidant and someone you can come to with questions like this. Do my best to help you. Thank you.